Hey, All right, y'all, well, we'll get started. I know it's just two of you and me. I know Brandon is on his way. I'm not sure where Dan is, but it's okay because tonight is a lot of like self-exploration of resources anyways, and so even if they come late, we can catch them up quickly and they can get started on it. It probably works out too because I think the session, I did something last minute that I thought was a little bit irrelevant, and so we were going to end early. So hopefully we still will, and I want to for your time. I know it's probably busy with homecoming this week. You guys are probably have crazy schedule stuff. We'll skip the icebreaker because you guys know each other, and that's strange. But would love to like ground us in where we're headed tonight and think about this question right here. Whenever you're ready to share out loud. So I want you to think about when you planned a really awesome hands-on inquiry activity or some sort of hands-on thing with students. And at the end of that lesson, your students either, one, like they made conclusions that really weren't like what you were aiming for that day, or they actually didn't come up with any new conclusions. And I would love for you, when ready, just to share like about that experience a little bit.
I can share, I think, about the, it was actually when you were there observing, Erin, the Beam Lab activity.
Yeah.
I feel like I didn't really do very well, and I didn't, objective was for students to be able to, like, understand what isotopes are and be able to, like, collect or use data on isotopes, so like mass, to calculate the average atomic mass for an element. I think I probably just didn't like introduce it very well. I probably should have like front loaded the information a little bit more than I did, so that they would make connections as they were doing it. I think later on, I was able to go back and kind of connect some of the pieces for them, but I don't think they were really the ones connecting it themselves.
Okay, cool. Well, not cool, but that's a good example for tonight.
So, I think one activity that's sticking out in my mind in my biomedical class was a blood spatter analysis lab that we did. And I don't know, I felt like I front-loaded quite a bit, and we worked quite a bit to understand, like, the kind of science behind blood spatter analysis. I tried to give them a lot of background knowledge, but then we did the lab, and we kind of, had previewed how to go through it, the procedures and things like that. But I still had a lot of issues with kids not following directions and just not going to get a lot out of it. But yeah, it was just a lab I was disappointed with.
Cool. Well, those are helpful to hear and know that hopefully tonight by the end when we leave, we'll talk about like how do we structure labs like from the very beginning when we're telling information through the lab, and then how do we follow up making sure that students are like getting meaningful information. And bear with this, like whether you guys want to either type in the chat box since there's only 3 of us, or just talking out loud. There's a bunch of like questions that we were going to discuss as a group, but I understand that that is a little strange when I think you guys are probably in the same building house or somewhere close to each other and know each other really well, and I am all the way here in Texas. So we will figure out how to make this work tonight. Thank you for bearing with me. So again, we started in week 1, or you started with Anna in week 1, talking about these anchoring events that we can center a unit of instruction around. And then last time, 2 weeks ago, we talked about how do we figure out what students already know. And tonight we're going to talk about what I just said, how to continue to have students figure out new information, the new information we're teaching them every day, and get them to change and revise their like initial thoughts or their initial models based on what we're teaching them. And so that is the purpose of tonight. I'm going to skip this part also. We're going to fly through this session tonight. It'll be great. So thinking about how we sequence these inquiry-based lessons, they did a bunch of research about like how students best learn from inquiry and like what are the best principles. And obviously that's part of this ambitious science teaching model, this model-based inquiry. And something that you guys touched on a little bit, but also that you know, is this quote here, that mere exposure to hands-on activity doesn't actually lead to student understanding. Rather, the way we sequence things, a type of talk that students do, orchestrated by the teacher, that prompts productive puzzlement, reasoning, and learning is actually how students learn. In the chat box, or out loud if you feel so inclined, based on this quote, like what here, like does that ring true for your class? I think based on what you said, yes, but there might be like some other labs that you've done that have been really awesome where this is wrong. What are you thinking about this quote right here? And what does that make you want to do in the future?
What I would say is I think there's a kind of lab for which that is true, like just exposure does not improve understanding. I think we tend to kind of do 2 kinds of labs. As science teachers, we have like kind of demonstrative labs, and then we also have like labs that actually like teach a principle or reveal a principle that we're trying to get across. And I think with that latter kind, this is definitely the case. That you can't just have the kids do it and they'll get it. And I think that's usually the kind of lab we aim for. But then there are also, I think there are some where the exposure itself is pretty beneficial and it creates background knowledge for the kids. I think of, for instance, I don't think this rings true as much for dissections. A lot of the time, I've found that when I've tried to like really prepare my students for them, it seems to work less well almost. I think there's a kind of lab where this is definitely true, and it's usually what we do, the kind of lab we aim to do, but then others where it's less true.
And that's really important. That's also something we've been talking about in the other course this week, just the general track. It's like, what is the difference between those two types of labs? Like the ones where kids are just confirming something, and the ones where they're actually creating new knowledge or like creating new models. And I think it's about like, what is the depth of knowledge that that objective has to go to? And like, so I think planning labs appropriately for that. I think there is a time and place for both. Sorry, do you have other thoughts that you want to share or type or things?
Yeah, I was going to agree. I feel like this is true for the things that we do in classes. Yeah, I think, I'm sorry. I lost what I was going to say.
No,
but,
it's okay.
If it comes back to me.
Totally fine. Cool. All right. So think about, and you guys kind of talked about, you're doing some of this already, but this idea of model-based inquiry, they give this sequence that they say that lab activities should follow. And I think to our point from the last slide is that sometimes we're not always going to do these model-based types of labs and things, and that's okay, right? And tonight we're going to talk about, like, say that we're doing those right now, and say that that's the only way for this unit that we can do a certain activity. And so this is the sequence that they say, is that you start with students new ideas to think about. So this is basic, like, intro to new material, or like the new concept you're teaching for that day, or your modeling, whatever you call that step of your lesson plan, where you're explicitly teaching students new information, or hopefully new information. Secondly is the piece where normally like kids are doing hands-on stuff, right? So kids are going to engage with the material that you have just taught them about, getting to explore it in some sort of hands-on way. And we're going to look at some examples and talk about like different ways that this can look. It doesn't always have to be this like elaborate, like so many materials that you have to probably go out and buy kind of thing. Like it can really just sometimes be examining data from somebody else, like the National Health Association. So kids are working with that material in some sort of way that is getting them to think about it differently. Last step of these lessons, they talk about using that new knowledge that students now just confirmed in some sort of activity to go back and revise their models of what they had already thought from the beginning of the unit. And so, as I told you a little bit in the beginning, a lot of tonight is just exploring these three different parts and what they look like in different classrooms. And again, I'm sure you guys already have ideas of what these look like. Tonight is really just like kind of a more resource kind of session about ways that different teachers do this. And so, we're going to change these groups up a little bit. I'm going to let you guys, are you all together right now, like you're in the same space? Or am I making assumptions?
I think we're in the same house.
Well, even if you don't want to work together, that's fine too. You can really do this individually. If you go ahead to this bit.ly link right here, it'll take you to a Google spreadsheet that looks something like this. There's like green and blue and yellow. I'll give a second to get there. You're pretty. I'm thinking there's like 15 people on the call, but there's only 2 of you. Okay, so this walks you through. So green is the first step of how like teachers introduce their new material. And I'm sure you guys know how to do this, but looking at different ways that are really going to prompt students to think deeper and like answer bigger questions. So there are 3 different resources there. If you want to choose 1 to 2 of them to explore, because with your partner, you guys can do it on your own. I trust in your abilities. Or if you want to do it together, that's fine too. And then down below, there's just some questions about what do we celebrate about what students are doing, how this teacher has gone about planning. You're going to do that for all 3 steps. So and then in the second piece, there's this there's a bunch of different resources showing how students are engaging with this new material, what hands-on activities or just activities are they doing, and then lastly, how are students all together as a class coming together to revise their knowledge that they already have. So we're going to spend the next 25 minutes, I know it's a long time, at least looking through 1 resource from each of the steps. We probably could get through 2 since we're not partnering with people who have to call into a conference line, but at least 1 from and then recording your thoughts down here below. And it says your partner name, but you guys can just do it individually if you like. Clear. That's a lot of steps, but I know you guys are very smart. So if you have questions, let me know. If not, I'll give you this 25 minutes to just explore how different teachers are doing these different steps. Yes.
Is that, sorry, I just didn't.
No, that's fine. I made a bit.ly so it would be really easy to share. So I will put it in the chat box right now.
Thank you.
Mhm. Hey y'all, so technically the 25 minutes is up. I see that we've gotten through the second step. Does it take like 10 minutes to do the third, or do we want to just come back together and actually work on a lesson for ourselves? Either chat or just tell me out loud. Thanks, Jeff. We can do that. Oh, okay. All right, let's meet in the middle then, Matt and Jeff. I think, oh no. I'm sorry. Take like 5 more minutes. Is there one that you can read through, Matt, that would just load quicker? Step 3, the last one. Okay. right, y'all, if you want to take a quick pause of wherever you're at and then click back on the WebEx screen. That for to share, and you guys seem pretty comfortable tonight just out loud. From any of those resources, what really stood out to you or was exciting, or was something like different that you hadn't really thought of using before? And hopefully you found something meaningful in a minute.
I can share. I watched a video on like using summary charts to kind of organize. And one of the reasons why it stuck out to me is because the activity in the video was very similar to an activity I had done in my class. It was on trophic levels, and they did an activity where they were supposed to like transfer beans from like one cup to another to represent kind of like loss. And I actually had done like a kind of like a relay race in my class, but the cups that they were using had like holes in their cup, losing water as they passed their cups from one person to another. But just like comparing the types of questions that I was asking for my students versus what they were asking, I think ultimately wanted them to understand the same things, but the teachers in the video were kind of structuring it so that the students could be the ones to make those connections and to, find understanding. I told my students like what the water represented, so they knew the water represents energy, like energy is being lost as you transfer from one vision to another. Whereas they did a summary chart to really like structure and scaffold basic students' thinking. They started with observations, just the general observations. Then what do those observations mean? And what does that meaning, like how does that relate to our puzzling phenomenon, to our anchoring event, to the question that we're trying to answer? And so definitely want to try to do those like summary charts and structure it in a similar way.
Cool. I think a big part of tonight, and even what was hard in designing this session, is like a lot of these things you guys are doing in some form or fashion right now. And so hopefully you did get some knowledge that was like adding on to what you already do, but isn't like completely revamping everything you've ever designed. Sorry. Matt, Brandon, did you find something exciting or something that when you like felt tension with that you maybe didn't agree with?
I really liked the claim evidence reasoning chart. I thought that was a very, very helpful structure. I hadn't really considered a template like that. Just something helpful that we'll use.
Brandon, did you find anything exciting?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. So I really liked, what was it? One of the last videos, the whole class model evaluation. I thought that was cool. How the teacher had a student show their model to the class, and then they broke it down together and dissected it. She had the students evaluate the model, so having them, working at that higher level on Bloom's and justifying why the model is good or could be better.
Awesome. Well, it seems like we had like different parts of the lesson that we liked, so that's good to hear. Okay, so the next part. Before we did that. So as I mentioned in the beginning, sometimes I think we can always review that an activity has to be this like grandiose thing that we plan out with like tons of materials. And really like there are multiple ways that students can be demonstrating like their understanding of concepts and their revisions of their models in different ways that aren't so like everything has to be hands-on and tons of stuff going on in the class. And so these were just some ideas that I was able to come up with in my head about what could count activity to allow students to like revise their models, to demonstrate their new knowledge. I can send this out to you if this would be helpful, just so that you're like not overwhelmed by the idea that like every day I have to plan this like huge thing. And some of them really are just about like pulling data from like a national website or somebody else who has data and having students analyze that, or even like this last one of having students like with their bodies act out like a phenomenon, especially for those learners who like to be active and move around all the time. That could be a really great way to get them to demonstrate what they learned that day, and pairing them with some other people in the class. So I can send that out if that's helpful to you as you consider like, how do I plan for all of this, because this sounds like a whole lot. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be a whole lot, just like tweaking a few things. So now that we've explored like the different parts of like what these lessons can look like, I thought it would be helpful to at least spend like 10 minutes planning for like either the anchoring event that you started this with, this course with, oh goodness, I can't talk, the anchor event that you started about 3 sessions ago or 2 sessions ago with Anna, or one that you've like changed since then, a new one that you're working on, because I know that was a while ago and you guys have been working each and every day. I have these 2 websites, and I can also again transfer these into the chat for you. You'll find 2 things. So there's a suggested resource on like these back pocket questions if you watch the teacher go around and like poke more understanding from students, and how they ask the questions is not just saying like what's going on here, right, but actually getting students to do like deeper thinking. So having those questions in your mind as you practice this, as it's a new skill, having like a resource that's just giving you those questions. And the second document is like the lesson plan. How would you go about this, following these different steps? So I figured we could work on this for 10 minutes, and then wherever we're at 10 minutes is just uploading that to our like Google Drive folder, because I'd love to see what you're doing. And then we'll close out, and I will let you guys off early this evening again, because I know you're really busy. And this has just been a strange session, because again, it's like things that you do, but just tweaking them a little bit to make sure we're getting student understanding. So again, 10 minutes, I'll put these links in the chat box, and then we'll come back together and close out.
Hey, give me a little bit of guidance on some stuff.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble coming up with kind of like questions and things like that on the lesson plan. Because I'm not entirely sure like what activities I'll be doing for this upcoming unit. Like what the anchoring event, like I think I shared with you that my idea for an anchoring event in terms of like the snake venom in the blood. Is that kind of enough to go off of, or should I like have a plan for what the activity should look like first?
So, I mean, for me, I'm thinking about what the specific, like, little part of that big anchoring event is going to be, or, like, whatever that unit is going to be, is where, like, this plan is going to help the most. And so, in the unit on the snake venom, what is, like, your big topic you're discussing, like, covering during that unit?
Part of it is going to be, like, I want them to understand levels of organization, like cells, tissues, like body systems, organisms, like that kind of hierarchy.
Yeah.
So kind of understand some of the basic like features of cells. That cells have like a membrane, and that those membranes have things embedded inside of them, which enable them to kind of actually like interact with certain things and maybe like pop together and stuff like that.
Thought about like what are the other sorts of activities you're going to include as you like go through that unit, or just like off you haven't begun the process yet?
I guess I haven't really about it. I'm trying to come up with some ideas right now, but my cells in general are tricky for me to come up with like hands-on activities for. But, I mean, especially because we don't have any like functioning microscopes or anything like that. About it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have some resources on just like what are other units on cells and like what other teachers done, where it's not just like we're making a model using like Play-Doh, and that's great, right? But like how do I like understand the concepts of like the parts of cells and what they all do? And I can look through those and try and send you some like activities as well. And I think once you have that, like then this plan would be like a little bit more helpful. So I can send you what I also have, and hopefully that could provoke thoughts as well.
Yeah, thank you. That would be great.
Yeah.
Jimmy, do you have room that you might want to take a look at? I have some, I forget exactly what they're called, but it's kind of like a Viewmaster, but it's like a microscope, and I have one set that is cells, so I could show you that. Just something random I have.
Yeah.
Like I've seen somewhere, sorry, I'm just still talking. I've seen somewhere like some sort of like data analysis lab where students look at like how much energy a cell is producing and be able to pull out like that cell must have a lot of mitochondria and be able to know like parts of a cell and just like that data around it. And I'm not sure if I'm like misreading the like unit you're covering. If parts of the cell are not part of it, let me know. But if not, I can find that because I know that exists. It's like just a data analysis lab on like how many of each part of the cell are inside of it. I don't know.
Any sound great. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, if we all want to come back together, I know Matt and Jeff are here and listening. Bryn, I'm sure you're listening too. If you guys just want to, wherever you're at, and maybe right now, like given our conversation, maybe it's not like a clear plan, but whatever you have, if you have something, go and upload it to our Google Drive folder, which I'm going to insert right now into the chat, just so I can take a look. And if there are those things where you're like, I don't know what activities, let me know, and I can see like what I have as well to give you some ideas for more activities. All right. So gonna close out with some announcements for this evening and get you guys on your way. Again, thanks for bearing with this session tonight. I know it was a little bit strange because again, some of this you're already doing, but hopefully you got some ideas about like how to go deeper with students, how to get them to relate it back to like larger picture stuff. And if not, feel free to write that in your feedback in the exit form. This was just like the next step of our quadrant circle in models-based inquiry, but this part was a little bit hard given we are all, or you are all, second-year teachers who kind of know a little bit about planning activities. Shout out to Jeff, who has already completed his first 9-week survey as of like 4 p.m. today. So Matt and Brandon, if you've done it after that, shout out to you as well. If not, please take a chance and check your email. You should have gotten it last Friday with a link to the survey. I've heard it's not very long, but Jeff, you can tell me if I'm wrong. I don't really know. Hopefully it's not too bad. Not long? Okay, that's good. Cool. So the next thing is talking about credits. This is actually our second to last course together as us four, unless we so decide to like do a course together next quarter, which we'll talk about in a second. But wanted to give you guys, there are 2 elective credit opportunities coming up. So on this Monday from 6 to 8 p.m., there's going to be a workshop led by Sarah Blackburn on time management and how to balance all the expectations of your district and your school and your students and Teach for America, how to balance all of that together and stay sane. If you want to do that, it would be worth 1 elective credit, and you can register on the website. To go to do your exit forms, just click on registration instead, and then I just searched by culture, and it was pretty easy to find. There's only like 2 up there. The second elective credit opportunity is our content extravaganza. We finally nailed down a time for it and talked about the amount of credits. So it's going to be on Halloween from 1 to 3:30, and it's going to be up to 3 credits if you want to stay the whole day. If you use it like, maybe I only want to attend 2 of them, it would be 2 credits, etc. Session will be an hour and a half, just like normal PD. If you're sitting there and are like, what the heck are elective credits? How do they differ from regular credits? So what you're in right now is core content PD. If you're in this course right now, by the end of it, you'll have 4 credits. You'll take some sort of experience next quarter that will give you 3 more credits. And that will give you your core PD. So at the end of the year, you'll have 14 core credits. Their 6 credits have to come from electives. And so that's what these 2 opportunities are over here on the left. That's a quick overview. So if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them either after this out loud or via email. Or you probably may know this already. But I know it's been confusing for some folks this year, especially second years as it changed over the summer. Cool. As I said, we are nearing the end of this course together. And so figuring out what's next for you all, the expectation is that you would be enrolled in some core PD next quarter. So wanted to give you some options. Either there is a new series that is going to start after the 14th of October, so it would probably start the 28th of October. And it's going to be on restorative practices in the classroom, so thinking about how does your discipline system actually like teach kids how to do better versus actually teaching kids like you're just wrong and like I'm going to send you to the office. So if you're interested in that, that's going to be every other Tuesday next quarter from 6 to 7:30, so that could be an option for you. You are also more than welcome to join the general course that Brandon actually leads on Mondays. It's also offered on Tuesday and Thursday nights. Those are the 3 sessions that we have left in there, and so if you're like, yeah, that'd be interesting information, you might want to join that course. Or if you guys want as a group, we can decide that like we like our little small group and we want to continue doing something together, the 4 of us. Obviously we talked to Dan. There is another outside of ambitious science teaching that we've been following that talks a little bit more about like expanding inquiry into your classroom and what are the types of questions you should be asking. So that's an option and we can like do that. It's kind of like a book study. You wouldn't have to buy a book, but it's like that kind of deal. So those are the options. In your exit form today, I'm going to ask you which of these you might prefer. Maybe you're like on the fence right now and need more information, and that's fine too. But we're going to need to like make a decision soon as a group about what we want to do next quarter. So, speak now. Okay. I'm going to take that as you don't have questions, but feel free to email me. I know it's a lot. With that, I will let you guys out, hopefully, yeah, like 10 minutes early. If you will go ahead and do your exit form, and again, in the last box, let me know which option, and I'll put them back up if you guys do your exit form. I'll send them in my follow-up email tomorrow. What would you guys like to enroll in next quarter so I can start planning if we want to do like an additional study as a group together? And if there's any questions, let me know. If not, have a great rest of your week. I know Hollandale, y'all are in crazy homegoingness, so enjoy that. Brandon, I think you're doing crazy things in Greenville as well. Have a good night, guys, and I'll see you in a few weeks.
Okay, then I have actually one quick question. It's actually not about upcoming PD, but about previous PDs. I did a few with Anne this year, kind of in like the first couple of weeks. And I know that the PD was running at that point in time.
Okay.
Said she was kind of tracking those like manually, like we were doing exit tickets, going back those manually. I have to talk to her before she left her sabbatical. But would you happen to know anything about when might show up or how they show up?
Yeah, so she had some things that she said she did over the summer with people. So was it either about performance tasks or like culture?
Yeah, about both, yes.
Okay. So I have all of that like data. Like she sent me the like exit form responses. I didn't know that I needed to put them in the PD system, and I'm not exactly sure how to do that at this exact moment, but I'll talk to Sean Anthony because he does like all things tracking, and I'll figure out how to get you the credit because there's like a bunch of people that need to get extra credit.
I think there were probably maybe 6.
Yeah, like a bunch was maybe a bit over exaggeration, but yeah, there's like at least 3 or 4 that I know of, like Cree and Kelly Williams, and some. I think some other people went to like 1 or 2 sessions or like part of it, but I'll look at that. I know exactly where the data is. Like she has given me all her folders, and I'll try and follow up with Sean tomorrow and figure out how to get that in the system.
Okay, so much.
Thanks. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye, Brennan.